They say money is the root of all evil, but in Tontitown, money is the leash. For decades, Jim Bob Duggar has controlled his empire with a simple, brutal equation. If you follow the rules, you get the contracts, the houses, and the screen time. If you rebel, you get cut off. He thought he could starve the lost sister into silence. He believed that by severing her access to the family fortune and blacklisting her from the community, he would break her spirit. He was wrong. Juliet didn't need his money because she went out and found her own, and what she found is terrifying the patriarch more than any federal investigation ever could. We have received insider reports that a major streaming platform has acquired the rights to her story for a record-breaking sum, rumored to be in the $10 million range. But the money isn't the headline. The headline is the release date. In a calculated act of war, this docu-series is slated to drop on December 25th, 2025. The Christmas Day Massacre. Jim Bob thought he was playing chess, but Juliet just flipped the entire board. If you want to be on the right side of history when this empire finally crumbles, you need to hit that like button right now. We are the only channel brave enough to dig into the theories the mainstream media is too afraid to touch. Subscribe and turn on notifications because the information we are about to drop regarding the legal documents in this case will change everything you thought you knew about the Duggar family. Let's go back to the beginning of the end. To understand the magnitude of this $10 million deal, you have to understand the foundational lie that Jim Bob has been selling his children since birth. That lie is simple. Hollywood is the enemy. For 30 years, he raised his kids to fear secular media. He told them that the outside world would twist their words and persecute their faith. But insiders suggest that Jim Bob's fear of Hollywood had nothing to do with religion and everything to do with the edit bay. On TLC, Jim Bob was an executive producer in all but name. He had influence. He could kill storylines. He could protect the brand. But the secular media doesn't let you edit the footage. Jim Bob fears the final cut because he knows that in the hands of a real documentarian, he isn't the quirky father figure. He is the villain. And that is exactly what Juliet has sold. While the rest of the family was distracted posting performative Bible verses and curated fall aesthetic photos on Instagram to distract from ongoing scandals, sources tell us Juliet was making moves in silence. We are looking at a timeline that suggests while Tontitown was sleeping, Juliet was taking meetings. These were not mission trips. These were business trips. Over the last 18 months, witnesses have placed a woman matching Juliet's description in Burbank and New York City, flanked not by chaperones but by high-powered entertainment lawyers. We are talking about the kind of sharks who handle high-profile conservatorship cases and major studio litigations. The narrative inside the big house was that Juliet was struggling, that she was lost, that she was suffering without the family's covering. But the reality appears to be vastly different. She wasn't pitching a sob story. She wasn't looking for a quick tabloid payout or a sit-down interview on a daytime talk show. She was pitching a forensic takedown of a high control group. The streaming wars are fierce right now, and content is king. A story this explosive, involving a family with 20 years of television history, is a gold mine. The bidding war was reportedly intense, with 3 major platforms vying for the rights. The $10 million figure that is being floated around isn't just for her life rights, it's for the archives, it's for the receipts. The most damaging aspect of this deal, however, isn't the money Juliet will receive. It is the creative team she has aligned herself with. This is the detail that should keep Jim Bob up at night. Reports indicate that the project is being helmed by an Academy Award-winning filmmaker, a director known specifically for exposing institutional abuse and systemic corruption. This isn't a reality TV producer looking for drama. This is a cinematic journalist looking for the truth. The timeline of production is what makes this truly dangerous for the family brand. We are hearing that this director has been secretly filming Juliet for 18 months. Think about what has happened in the last 18 months. Think about the holidays, the trials, the weddings, the rumors. If this camera crew has been a fly on the wall for that entire duration, they have captured the family at its most vulnerable and fractured. This isn't a retrospective where someone sits in a chair and talks about the past. This is real-time footage of the fallout. There is one specific scene that insiders are already describing as the smoking gun of the first episode. Allegedly, the documentary crew has high-definition footage of Juliet attempting to return to the Tontitown compound. We have heard stories for years about family members being soft-banned or told they aren't welcome, but we have never seen it. We have never seen rejection. The rumor is that Juliet drove to the main gates, cameras rolling in the passenger seat, only to be turned away by armed security. If that footage exists, and if it airs on Christmas Day, it destroys the entire brand of the open door and the loving family in seconds. You have to consider the legal landscape here. The Duggars rely on network TV contracts, specifically the old agreements with TLC. Those contracts are ironclad. They have morality clauses, non-disclosure agreements, and strict non-compete clauses that prevent the kids from making money on other platforms without kicking a percentage up to the top. This is how Jim Bob kept everyone in line. If you wanted to get paid, you had to play by his rules because he held the contract. But Juliet is the anomaly, because she was arguably erased from the narrative early on, or perhaps because she refused to sign the adult addendums when she turned 18. She is what Hollywood calls a free agent. She never signed the non-compete. She never signed the NDA. She owns her life rights completely. This is the loophole that Jim Bob never saw coming. He assumed that without his contract, his children would be destitute. He didn't anticipate that one of them would realize that their freedom was actually a more valuable commodity than his control. By refusing to sign his contracts, she preserved her right to sign this one. And this streaming deal doesn't have a morality clause. In fact, it's the opposite. The streamers want immorality. They want grit. They want the things that TLC would have blurred out or cut to commercial. The context of the Christmas Day release cannot be overstated. In the world of streaming, dropping a flagship show on a holiday is a strategic move to capture the maximum audience when everyone is home. But in the context of the Duggar family, it is psychological warfare. Christmas is the holiest day on their calendar, aside from perhaps Easter. It is a day they use to project their image of perfection to the world. We are used to seeing the massive gatherings, the piles of gifts, the ugly sweaters, and the perfect family photos posted to social media to prove that they are blessed. By scheduling the release for December 25th, 2025, Juliet and the streaming platform are effectively hijacking the holiday. Instead of the world looking at their Instagram feeds to see how happy they are, the world will be glued to their TVs watching their empire burn in 4K resolution. It forces the family into a corner. Do they post their usual photos and look oblivious while the world trends their downfall? Or do they go dark, which is an admission of defeat? It is a checkmate move. It takes the one day of the year where they usually control the narrative and turns it into the day of their reckoning. What makes this situation even more volatile is the silence from the Tontitown camp. Usually when a rumor like this breaks, there is a swift denial. There is a statement about news or attacks on the family. But this time, radio silence. And in the world of PR, silence usually means they are consulting with lawyers. They aren't spinning the story because they are too busy trying to kill it. This brings us to the concept of the foundational lie again. Jim Bob convinced his children that the world was scary and that he was their protector. But this documentary threatens to flip that script entirely. The theory is that the footage will show Juliet thriving in the secular world. It will show her safe, happy, and successful without the family's intervention. That visual evidence is dangerous because it shows the other children, the ones still trapped inside the system, that the monster under the bed isn't real. It proves that you can leave, and not only will you survive, but you might also actually become more powerful than the people who tried to control you. Yeah, we need to talk about the business trips in more detail. When we say Juliet was in Burbank, we aren't talking about a coffee shop meeting. We are talking about boardroom presentations. The rumor is that Juliet walked into these meetings not as a victim, but as a producer. She isn't just the subject of this documentary. She is listed as an executive producer. That gives her creative control. That gives her final say on what stays in and what gets cut. Jim Bob is used to being the executive producer. He is used to having the power to say, we aren't showing that. Now his daughter holds that power. The role reversal is almost Shakespearean. The team she has assembled includes forensic accountants. This is a detail that many people are overlooking. Why would you need forensic accountants for a biographical documentary? Unless the documentary isn't just about abuse, but about fraud. We have long speculated about the family finances, the real estate trusts, and how the TV money was distributed. If Juliet has brought in forensic accountants, it implies that she is trying to trace the money. She is trying to prove where the millions from the original show went and why the children who starred in it allegedly saw pennies on the dollar. If this streaming series includes a financial audit component, we aren't just looking at a PR disaster, we are looking at potential legal liabilities for tax evasion or fraud. The overlooked protagonist here, the director, is key to the credibility of this project. If this was a Lifetime movie or a tabloid special, it could be dismissed. But an Academy Award winner brings a level of prestige that makes the allegations fact in the eyes of the public. This director doesn't do hit pieces, they do historical records. They create content that is archived. By attaching a name of that caliber to this project, the streaming platform is signaling that this is serious journalism. They are treating the Duggar family structure not as a celebrity scandal, but as a sociological case study in high control dynamics. Let's dig deeper into secret filming, 18 months. Think about the logistics of that. It means Juliet has been wearing a wire, or she has had a crew with her during private moments, or she has been recording phone calls. In many states, recording a conversation requires the consent of all parties, but in others, it's a one-party consent state. Arkansas, where the family is based, is a one-party consent state. This means that as long as Juliet was part of the conversation, she could legally record phone calls with her parents without telling them. If she has 18 months of recorded phone calls where Jim Bob is berating her, threatening her, or trying to manipulate her back into the fold, and she releases those tapes on Christmas Day, that audio alone is worth the $10 million price tag. The emotional arc of this series is expected to focus on the concept of the lost sister. For a long time, fans have noticed that in large families, certain siblings fade into the background. They become the buddy to the younger ones, the sister moms who do the work but get none of the glory. Juliet represents all of them. This series is positioning her as the voice for the voiceless. She is the one who got out, and now she is coming back to burn the gate down. But Jim Bob isn't going down without a fight. This is where the story shifts from a media drama to a legal thriller. We know that Jim Bob is litigious. He has sued police departments, he has sued magazines, he is not afraid of a courtroom. But this time, the enemy isn't a local precinct or a gossip rag. It is a multi-billion-dollar tech giant. A streaming platform like Netflix or Amazon has a legal budget that dwarfs the entirety of the Duggar estate. Jim Bob is used to bullying people who can't afford to fight back. He is not used to fighting a corporation that views a $10 million lawsuit as a line item in their marketing budget. We have received information regarding a strategy meeting held in Tontitown shortly after news of the deal reached the family. Allegedly, the mood was panic. The strategy was to attack Juliet's credibility. They are preparing to launch a smear campaign. We expect to see anonymous sources popping up in friendly tabloids claiming that Juliet is mentally unstable, that she is a liar, or that she has been corrupted by the world. They will try to paint her as the prodigal daughter who has lost her way. But the documentary team is ahead of them. They anticipate these attacks. In fact, it is rumored that the documentary will include a segment predicting exactly how the family will try to discredit her, effectively neutralizing the attacks before they even happen. This is the power of the pre-bunking strategy. By revealing the family's playbook in the documentary, Juliet makes their response look like a script she already wrote. If Jim Bob releases a statement saying she is lying, the audience will say, Juliet said he would say that. It strips him of his power to control the narrative. The level of coordination here is unprecedented. We are seeing a shift from the Duggars being the ones who exploit the media to the media finally being used to dismantle the Duggars. And at the center of it all is the Christmas date. It is symbolic. It is the day of giving, and Juliet is giving the world the truth. It is the day of family, and she is exposing hers. This brings us to the most explosive development in this entire saga, a piece of evidence that changes the complexion of this battle from a media dispute to a full-blown legal war. We are talking about the smoking gun. Late last night, we received access to a leaked document that was allegedly sent from Jim Bob Duggar's legal team directly to the headquarters of the streaming giant behind this project. It is a cease and desist letter, but it is not your standard legal threat. Usually, a cease and desist is a broad warning, a blanket statement telling someone to stop production or face a lawsuit. This document is different. This document is a strategic error of catastrophic proportions. In an attempt to kill the project, Jim Bob's lawyers may have just handed Juliet the keys to the kingdom. The letter lists in excruciating detail 42 specific claims that the Duggar legal team wants redacted from the final cut of the documentary. 42. Let that number sink in. They didn't ask to stop the whole documentary. They asked to remove 42 specific scenes, allegations, and documents. By listing them to demand their removal, Jim Bob's lawyers have effectively confirmed that these 42 events actually happened. You cannot demand the redaction of a specific bank transfer date unless that transfer actually occurred. You cannot demand the removal of audio from a specific closed-door meeting unless that meeting took place. In the legal world, this is what is known as showing your hand. They have provided the streaming platform, and by extension, the public, with a roadmap of their greatest fears. We are calling this the List of 42, and insiders tell us that the streaming platform's legal response was simply 2 words: request denied. They know that by validating the existence of these moments, Jim Bob has stripped himself of the news defense. He can no longer say Juliet is making things up because his own lawyers just sent a formal letter acknowledging the existence of the very material he wants to hide. This is the Streisand effect weaponized. By trying to bury these 42 secrets, he has guaranteed that they will be the most analyzed moments of the entire series. So, what is on the list? While we cannot read the full legal text verbatim due to copyright restrictions, we can discuss the theoretical contents based on the leaks coming out of the production office. The list is reportedly broken down into 3 categories: financial misappropriation, coercive control, and child labor violations. The first 12 items on the redaction list allegedly deal with the money. We have suspected for years that the family pot was a myth and that the Jim Bob pot was the reality. Item number 4 on the list allegedly references a specific wire transfer that occurred on the day one of the older daughters turned 18. The theory is that the documentary has proof that money earned by the children was moved into a trust controlled solely by Jim Bob the moment they became legal adults under the guise of management fees. If the documentary shows the paper trail, the bank statements, the routing numbers, the signatures, it proves that the children were not volunteers in a ministry. They were underpaid employees in a corporation. Jim Bob is terrified of this because the IRS does not look kindly on retroactive reclassification of income. If this series proves tax fraud, the Christmas release date will be followed by a New Year's audit. Items 13 through 20 on the list reportedly focus on what the family calls homeschooling and what the state might call educational neglect. The leak suggests there is footage, actual video evidence, of the younger children working at the warehouse or on construction sites during school hours. We aren't talking about doing chores, we are talking about heavy labor. If the documentary airs footage of minors operating heavy machinery while they should be learning long division, Jim Bob isn't just facing public backlash. He is facing the Department of Labor. The redaction request allegedly argues that this footage violates the privacy of the minors. Juliet's team is arguing that it exposes the exploitation of the minors. The difference in those 2 arguments is the difference between a privacy lawsuit and a criminal investigation. But the most damaging redactions are the ones towards the end of the list, items 30 through 42. These are the closed-door moments. The leak indicates that there is audio recording of a counseling session between Jim Bob and Juliet. In this session, he allegedly uses spiritual manipulation to silence her, invoking hellfire and damnation if she speaks against the family. The redaction request claims this was a private religious confession and is protected by clergy privilege. But here is the catch. Jim Bob is not a licensed therapist. He is not a priest in a confessional booth recognized by the state in this specific context. He is a father in a living room. Juliet's lawyers are arguing that this wasn't a confession. It was a coercion session. If that audio plays on Christmas Day, hearing the specific tone of voice, the specific words used to break a young woman's spirit, it will dismantle the kindly grandfather image forever. This leads us to the grand legal strategy that Jim Bob is attempting to deploy. It is a battle of right of publicity versus the First Amendment. This is the legal threat that is currently stalling the trailer release, though sources say the platform is ready to drop it at any second. Jim Bob is arguing that Duggar is not just a last name, it is a trademark. He is arguing that he has spent decades building the Duggar brand as a commercial entity associated with faith, family, and conservative values. His legal argument is that by titling the documentary or marketing it using the Duggar name, Juliet is infringing on his trademark to sell a product that damages the brand. He is essentially claiming that he owns the copyright to his children's identities. It is a bold, desperate move. He is trying to treat his family like Disney treats Mickey Mouse. You can't make a movie about Mickey Mouse without Disney's permission because it damages their brand. Jim Bob is saying you can't make a movie about a Duggar without his permission. But Juliet's team includes some of the most aggressive First Amendment litigators in the country. Their counter-argument is breathtaking in its simplicity. You cannot trademark the truth of someone's survival. They are arguing that Juliet is a Duggar by blood, not by contract. She has a birthright to her own name and her own history. She is not selling a brand, she is telling a biographical story, which is fully protected under the First Amendment. Furthermore, Juliet's team is flipping the brand argument on its head. If Jim Bob claims Duggar is a commercial brand, then he admits that the family is a business, not a ministry. This distinction matters. Ministries get tax exemptions. Businesses do not. If he argues in federal court that his family is a trademarked commercial entity to stop this documentary, he creates a public record that the IRS can use to strip their tax-exempt status. He is caught in a legal trap of his own making. He has to choose, are you a father or are you a CEO? He can't be both when the subpoena arrives. We need to talk about the overlooked protagonist again, the director, and how they factor into this legal battle. This Academy Award winner is not just a filmmaker, they are a journalist. In the United States, journalists have protections. There are shield laws that protect sources and unseen footage. By partnering with a journalist of this caliber, Juliet has effectively placed her story inside a vault of journalistic integrity. If Jim Bob tries to subpoena the raw footage to see what else they have, the director can claim journalistic privilege. This is a massive firewall that the Tontitown legal team did not anticipate. They thought they were suing a disgruntled daughter. They didn't realize they were suing the free press. Let's go back inside the compound. What is happening in Tontitown right now? Reports describe the atmosphere as apocalyptic. We are hearing that the war room, Jim Bob's office, is active 24/7. There are rumors of assets being moved. We have seen flight logs, publicly available data, showing the family planes making short, erratic trips to neighboring states. Why? One theory is that they are moving physical assets. Another theory is that they are meeting with donors, trying to shore up support before the bomb drops. But the most interesting rumor concerning the compound is the loyalty tests. Sources suggest that Jim Bob has become paranoid about leaks. He knows that someone inside the house had to tip Juliet off about certain events. He knows that the leaks in the cease and desist letter had to come from somewhere near the chain of custody. We are hearing reports that phones are being confiscated, that internet access is being restricted even for the adult children living on the property. He is locking down the fortress, but the tighter he grips, the more the sand slips through his fingers. We are receiving messages from sources who claim to be friends of the siblings, saying that the younger generation is quietly watching Juliet. They are waiting to see if she wins, if she pulls this off, if she releases this documentary and withstands the wrath of Jim Bob and still gets that $10 million check. It will trigger an exodus. She is the test case. The release date, December 25th, 2025, acts as a ticking clock. Every day that passes without a settlement is a win for Juliet. Jim Bob is running out of time. He has tried the morality clause. He has tried the trademark threat. He has tried the intimidation letter. None of it is working. The streaming platform has deeper pockets and better lawyers. They have calculated the risk. They know Jim Bob will sue. They have probably already set aside $5 million for the legal defense fund, and they consider it a marketing expense. They want him to sue. A lawsuit from Jim Bob Duggar would be the greatest free advertising this documentary could ever receive. Imagine the headlines. Cult patriarch sues to stop Christmas documentary. It would be on the front page of every newspaper in the world. It would guarantee that millions of people who don't even care about the Duggars would watch just to see what he is trying to hide. The streaming executives know this. Juliet knows this. The only person who doesn't seem to understand that he is walking into a trap is Jim Bob. He is reacting with the same playbook he used in 2015, not realizing the game has changed. In 2015, he could pressure TLC to cancel a show or spin a narrative. But Netflix, Amazon, HBO, they don't care about his local influence in Arkansas. They answer to shareholders who want subscriber growth, and nothing drives subscriber growth like a true crime expose of a famous family. Let's dig deeper into the 42 redactions, and specifically redaction Duggar 35, which insiders are calling the ultimatum. The rumor is that this redaction concerns footage or audio from a wedding day, not a recent one, but a past wedding. The allegation is that Jim Bob threatened to withhold the marriage license or cancel the venue payment on the morning of the ceremony unless the groom signed a contract granting Jim Bob rights to their future televised life. This is the deal with the devil moment. If this is true, and if there is proof, it invalidates the consent of every participant in the show. It proves they were under duress. Contracts signed under duress are voidable. This could open the door for every single son-in-law to sue for back wages. It could unravel the entire financial structure of the last decade. Then there is redaction number 22, the midnight flight. Aviation enthusiasts have tracked the family fleet for years, but there is one flight that has always been a mystery. A late-night departure with no scheduled return, carrying only Jim Bob and a troubled sibling to a location known for its harsh reform programs. The documentary allegedly has the flight manifest. They have the testimony of the pilot. They have the intake forms from the facility. Jim Bob wants this redacted because it fits the definition of human trafficking, transporting a minor across state lines for the purpose of confinement against their will. He calls it religious parenting. The law might call it kidnapping. Juliet is shining a spotlight on the dark side of the troublesome teen industry, and she is using her own family as the prime example. The psychological impact of these redactions on the audience cannot be overstated. When we read the list in the next video, you will see the pattern. He isn't trying to hide the generic stuff. He is trying to hide the specific mechanics of control. He wants to hide the money transfers. He wants to hide the contracts. He wants to hide the threats. He doesn't care if you think he's strict. He cares if you think he's a criminal. The betrayal mentioned in the premise isn't just Juliet betraying Jim Bob. It is Jim Bob betraying the very values he preached. He preached that debt is bad, yet the documentary allegedly reveals massive leveraged debt used to acquire real estate. He preached honesty, yet the redactions reveal a web of lies meant to deceive the public and the network. The documentary posits that the entire Duggar persona was a character played by a man who didn't believe his own script, only the profit margins it generated. As we move closer to the release, the tension is manifesting in the business trips. We mentioned Juliet in NYC and Burbank, but new reports place her meeting with the Department of Justice. This is the nuclear option. If Juliet is cooperating with federal authorities, providing them with the unedited footage and the documents that Jim Bob is trying to redact, then the documentary is just the opening act. The main event will be the indictment. The streaming deal ensures she has the funds to pay for security, to pay for lawyers, and to sustain herself during a long federal investigation. Jim Bob thought cutting her off would make her weak. Instead, it made her dangerous. It forced her to find allies much more powerful than him. The trademark argument is his last stand. He is hoping that a judge will issue an emergency injunction to stop the release on December 25th. He is hoping to delay it, but delay only builds anticipation. If the court blocks the release on Christmas, the internet will explode. Release the Duggar cut will trend worldwide. The curiosity gap will widen. People who never watched 19 Kids and Counting will be desperate to see the banned footage. By fighting it, he is creating a legend. He is turning Juliet into a folk hero. And what about the mother? Where is Michelle in all of this? The list of 42 notably has very few redactions related to her. Why? The theory is that the documentary paints her not as a co-conspirator, but as the first victim. This is a strategic narrative choice. By isolating Jim Bob as the sole villain, Juliet offers a lifeline to her mother and siblings. She is saying, he is the problem, you can still be saved. It is a divide and conquer strategy designed to fracture the parents' alliance. If Michelle watches this documentary and sees the financial betrayal, sees the hidden accounts, sees the way Jim Bob manipulated her own children, will she finally wake up, or is she too deep in the fog? The documentary leaves that question open, inviting the audience to decide. The streaming platform is preparing for the Christmas Day Massacre with a marketing campaign that rivals a summer blockbuster. We are hearing about billboards in Times Square. We are hearing about a targeted social media blitz. They aren't hiding this show. They are parading it. And every time Jim Bob's lawyers send a letter, The marketing team pops a bottle of champagne. The cease and desist letter itself might even appear in the trailer. Imagine that. A trailer that opens with the text of the legal threat sent to stop it. It's a power move that screams, "We are not afraid of you." This legal battle over the trademark and the redactions is the crucible. It is where the old world of patriarchal control clashes with the new world of digital transparency. Jim Bob is fighting with 19th century tools in a 21st century war. He thinks a letter from a lawyer still means something. He thinks a shun still hurts. But Juliet has realized that in the modern economy, attention is currency, and truth is the ultimate weapon. She has monetized her trauma to fund her liberation. We have to consider the precedent this sets. If Juliet wins this trademark battle, if the court rules that you cannot trademark a family name to prevent criticism, it opens the floodgates for other reality TV survivors. It puts every family vlogger and momfluencer on notice. It says that your children own their stories, and one day they will tell them. Jim Bob isn't just fighting for himself. He is fighting for the entire industry of child exploitation entertainment. And he is losing. We are witnessing the weaponization of marketing. The streaming platform behind this $10 million deal isn't just releasing a documentary. They are orchestrating a cultural event. Sources inside the marketing department tell us that the campaign strategy is built entirely around Jim Bob's resistance. They are counting on him to sue. They are counting on the angry letters. Every time Jim Bob's legal team files a motion, the streaming service plans to release a new teaser trailer. They are turning his outrage into their engagement. We have heard rumors of a billboard campaign slated for Times Square in early December. The design is simple, stark, and terrifying for anyone in Tontitown. It features no title, no release date, just a black background with a single line of text, 42 Secrets, One Christmas, and in the corner, the silhouette of the big house. It is a shot across the bow. It signals that they aren't just selling a show, they are selling the vindication of a generation. The brilliance of this strategy lies in the Streisand effect. By fighting so hard to keep the list of 42 redactions secret, Jim Bob has guaranteed that those 42 moments will be the most watched minutes of television in 2025. The audience isn't just tuning in for the drama anymore. They are tuning in for the forensic evidence. They want to see exactly what a man who claimed to be morally superior to the entire world is so desperate to hide. But the Duggars are trying to counter-program. We have noticed a flurry of activity on the family's dormant social media accounts. Suddenly, after months of silence, we are seeing recipes, life hacks, and throwback photos of the kids when they were little. This is what PR firms call flooding the zone. They are trying to bury the negative search results with benign, wholesome content. They want to remind the world of the good old days when they were America's favorite mega family. They are trying to trigger nostalgia. But the internet never forgets. For every picture of a smiling baby they post, the comment section is flooded with questions about the Christmas Day massacre. The fans who used to defend them have become the sleuths who are dismantling them. This brings us to the silent army. Jim Bob always believed his power came from his fan base, the millions of people who bought the DVDs and the books. But he failed to realize that his fan base has grown up. The teenage girls who watched 19 Kids and Counting in 2008 are now adult women in 2025. They have jobs, they have families, and more importantly, they have critical thinking skills. They have deconstructed their own upbringings. They no longer see the Duggars as aspirational. They see them as a warning. Juliet has mobilized this army. She doesn't need to say a word on Instagram because thousands of true crime channels, TikTok detectives, and Reddit communities are doing the work for her. They are analyzing flight logs, real estate records, and LLC filings. They are crowdsourcing the investigation. Jim Bob is fighting a war against a hive mind that never sleeps. Let's talk about the cliffhanger that insiders say ends the first episode. The structure of this series is designed to hook you instantly. We are told the first episode focuses entirely on the myth of the ministry. It builds up the image of the selfless, charitable family, and then in the final minute, it cuts to black. We hear the sound of a wiretap. We hear a voice that sounds undeniably like the patriarch discussing how to funnel charitable donations into a private construction LLC to avoid taxes. The screen stays black. The audio cuts out, and the text appears, Episode 2, The Audit. This is why the release date is a nightmare for the family. If that episode drops on Christmas morning, By Christmas dinner, the entire world will be discussing whether the Duggars committed tax fraud. The financial fallout is already beginning. We are seeing signs of a fire sale in Northwest Arkansas. Properties that the family has held for years are quietly being listed. Commercial real estate lots are hitting the market. Why? Because lawsuits are expensive. Even if Jim Bob wins, which is unlikely, the legal fees to fight a major streaming platform will bleed him dry. He is liquidating assets to build a war chest. But there is another theory. Some speculate he is liquidating assets to hide the cash. It is much harder to seize a bank account in an offshore tax haven than it is to seize a physical warehouse in Arkansas. If the forensic accountants involved in Juliet's documentary have done their job, they are likely tracking these sales in real time. The impact on the siblings, the ones who haven't left, is the most tragic part of this story. We call it the loyalty tax. To stay in Jim Bob's good graces, to keep their housing and their allowances, they have to publicly denounce Juliet. They have to post statements claiming she is lying. They have to cut ties, but insiders suggest the ranks are breaking. We are hearing about burner phones being used by the siblings to contact Juliet in secret. They are terrified, but they are curious. They want to know what she knows. They are waiting to see if she survives the blast. If Juliet walks away from this with her $10 million and her reputation intact, she becomes the proof of concept. She proves that the curses Jim Bob threatened them with are fake. She proves that the world won't chew you up. It might actually embrace you. This documentary is effectively a rescue mission. Juliet is dropping a rope into the pit. She is signaling to her brothers and sisters that there is a life on the other side of the fence. The streaming deal includes a provision that few people are talking about, a dedicated fund for legal support for survivors. Juliet allegedly insisted on this clause. A portion of the profits from the series goes into a trust specifically designed to pay for the legal fees of any other sibling who wants to break their contract or fight for custody of their own children. She isn't just exposing the empire, she is financing the rebellion. The Christmas Day timing is also a masterstroke of irony regarding the war on Christmas. For years, conservative pundits, friends of the Duggars, have complained about the secularization of Christmas. Now, the Duggars are the ones dreading the holiday. The streaming platform is positioning this as the truth. They are using taglines like, "The truth is the only tradition that matters." They are co-opting the religious language of revelation and apocalypse to market a TV show. It is a direct challenge to Jim Bob's authority. He claims to speak for God. The documentary claims to speak for the victims. As we count down to the release, the atmosphere in the media is electric. We are expecting a red envelope campaign, a nod to the old Netflix DVD days, or perhaps a reference to the Scarlet Letter. Influencers are already receiving promotional boxes locked with a combination. The code? 12 to 25 to 25. Inside? Copies of the redacted documents. The list of 42. This is guerrilla marketing at its finest. They are putting the evidence directly into the hands of the people who will amplify it the loudest. So what is the end game for Jim Bob? He has 3 options, and all of them are bad. Option 1, he settles. He pays Juliet an even larger sum to bury the footage. But sources say Juliet isn't interested in a settlement. She has enough money. She wants the story told. Option 2, he goes to trial. He sues for defamation and breach of contract. But that opens him up to discovery. In a lawsuit, the defense gets to demand documents. Juliet's lawyers would have a field day subpoenaing his emails, his bank records, and his text messages. A trial would expose more than the documentary ever could. Option 3, he goes dark. He retreats. He pulls the family off the internet, sells the big house, and moves the operation to a jurisdiction that is less friendly to cameras. This is the bunker strategy. And honestly, it's his best move. But his ego might not let him take it. He is addicted to the limelight, even when it burns. The betrayal runs deep because it dismantles the very product they sold. They sold perfection. They sold obedience. But the documentary reveals that the obedience was purchased and the perfection was edited. When the credits roll on that final episode, the Duggar brand will be worth 0. The reruns will be pulled, the books will be pulped, the speaking engagements will be canceled. It is the total erasure of a legacy that was built on sand. But here is the most important part, the part that affects you, the viewer. We are currently sitting on the full itemized list of the 42 redactions. We have the specific details that Jim Bob's lawyers tried to scrub from the record. We know about the midnight flight. We know about the wedding contract. We know about the bank transfer. We know about the conversations that happened in the master bedroom when they thought no one was listening. We debated whether or not to release the full list. It is dangerous information. It names names. It exposes the machinery of the cult in a way that is uncomfortable and raw, but we realize that keeping it secret is exactly what Jim Bob wants. He wants you to stay in the dark. He wants to control the narrative until the very last second. We aren't going to let him do that. We are currently verifying the final 3 items on the list with our sources to ensure 100% accuracy. Once that verification is complete, which should be within the next 24 hours, we are going to publish the entire list in our next video. We are going to read the redactions word for word. We are going to show you the document that the streaming giant refused to sign. You do not want to miss this. This is the information that connects all the dots. This is the key to understanding the timeline of the Christmas Day massacre. So here's what you need to do right now. Check your subscription status. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. But more importantly, hit that notification bell and set it to all. YouTube tries to suppress this kind of content. They don't want these theories trending. You need to make sure you get the alert the second we go live with the list. The Duggars have had their time to speak. They have had 20 years of microphones and cameras. Now it's Juliet's turn. And on December 25th, silence will no longer be golden. It will be over. I'm reading the comments on this video for the next hour. Tell me, do you think Jim Bob will try to flee before the release? Do you think Michelle will finally leave? Drop your theories below. I'll be pinning the best ones. Get ready, the list is coming.